All right, it's time to get a little bit nerdy in today's podcast where we're going to talk about speed and power. So with us at Goat Sports, my name is Adrian Skepi, and together with me I have Martin Strante, and let's get into it. So Martin, first question about today's subject is, what is power, what is speed, and aren't they the same things?
That's a good question. Let's try to simplify this and not make it too complex. So speed is how fast an object is moving, and power is force times velocity. Like we said, it sounds complex, but let's try to make it simple.
All right, good.
So power, let's take a football kick, for example. The force would be how hard you kick the ball. And the velocity would be how fast the leg is moving.
The speed of the foot.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So if the force is high and the speed is high, you will generate a lot of power, which will result in a very good and hard football kick. Of course, you need the technique to maybe hit the right, aim.
It helps.
But that's not in this equation. So to give another example, we can take sprinting for about 20 to 30 meters. So if you want to be fast here, you want to be able to generate a lot of power in a very short amount of time. And to build power in this phase, you want to be able to, with your legs, push a lot of force down to the ground. So when you're running, you want to kick your legs down to the ground and generate a lot of force. But you also want to do this fast, because if you do it slow, you're not going to be able to get anywhere fast. You also want to use your legs very, very fast. So the force is how hard you can push the legs down to the ground, and then this velocity is how fast the legs are moving.
All right. Well, I think it makes it a little bit more simple, but
Yeah.
we do realize that this makes it also more complex.
There's a lot of more things that you have to think about when you want to get faster, or you want to kick something harder, or you want to jump higher. It's a lot of combinations of both speed and power. In other words that we say in the gym is also that power is also strength. But if you do something very heavy, slowly, it's not going to generate as much power as if you do it fast as well.
All right.
Does that make sense?
A little bit more.
Yeah.
But generally it's like speed and power, they're all related.
Exactly.
But they're not the same thing. So that's something we need to clarify.
Definitely.
When I look at social media, I usually find a lot of different types of, how would you say, studies of methods of different types of coaches saying that this is right, this is wrong.
Yeah.
They would say something is hot or it's cold or it's either up and down and in and out. It's always very contradicting.
Yeah.
So is there some kind of silver lining that we need to focus on while we want to build something like power and strength, or can anyone start anywhere?
Yeah, that's a good question. So as coaches, we love to say this, but you have to start where you are. So that takes a good coach's eye to be able to analyze and see, okay, maybe this person isn't that fast, but he's very strong. Or this person is very fast and explosive, but he doesn't have a lot of strength. And it can also be other things like stability, flexibility. So you have to really be able to make a good assessment to see where you can start. So, this maybe isn't a direct question, because like we said, things are all related and you have to be able to look at different things. Training for speed and power you're most likely prone to injury because you're doing things very fast or very heavy. So if you want to do things very fast and heavy, you need to have a good foundation. And a good foundation comes down to stability, it comes down to flexibility, strengthening your core, having good movement patterns. So first off, I would start with a very strong foundation, because if I want to do things fast and heavy, I want to make sure that I have the requirements to do it. So that's where the good things you can take with you.
That's very good. And this question is technically from me, but to all clients that sometimes I struggle with getting through. So I'm hoping they can hear it from you.
I probably know the question right now.
Well, they come in, they meet us, and this is usually when we have a new I would say more athletic client, someone who's doing a sport or something and wants to excel in that.
Yeah.
So we have a consultation. We usually always have that, and we ask a lot of questions, because it's important. It's important to really get into why we're here. But one of the questions, or two of the questions, are usually of what are the goals? and what do they kind of expect, the expectations, the goals and expectations. And I know that for a fact that I've experienced is that clients will come in and think that, well, I want to run faster,
Yes,
jump higher, turn quicker,
of course.
and a lot of other things.
All the athletes, yeah.
And they feel that if the exercise isn't fast or hard or high or whatever it could be, we're not training the same things. So the question is technically, could you build speed, power, strength, so on, with these like boring exercises? I'm saying it boring because that's how they seem, but could technically one do that? And what is then the purpose of doing that? Like why?
Yeah. So let's say, like we talked before, like you need stability, flexibility, and those kind of things. The foundation. These exercises always aren't the most like prettiest and the most fun. They're usually a bit more boring. Maybe you have to hold a plank or you have to do very correct lunges and be able to do it with a very stable form. Because if you can't do a regular lunge with good stability, how are you going to be able to do jumps or running fast? I mean, we're coaches and we always want to minimize the risk of someone injuring. So we're not going to throw an exercise that's too tough for the person in front. So yeah, it comes down to like, you have to do the boring things, but then when you know you have the foundation, then you can start doing the more fun things. But you have to have the requirements. It's super important.
All right. Well, I'll ask it like this then.
Yeah.
So we have a client, they come in, we give them boring exercises, but the results still get better.
Yeah.
How is that?
Well, the thing is that maybe they had the strength and the speed to begin with, but they didn't have the missing link that was able to connect it. So let's say the core wasn't there, but they had a lot of power in their legs, but they couldn't get that power through the legs, through the core, to the arm. Let's say a tennis serve or a punch, because you also use your legs. Let's say a tennis serve, you want to be able to jump really high and then smash it down with your core and arm. But if you don't have the core and the upper body strength, then you may not able to get the most out of your legs. So it might be the missing link that someone needs. And if you just train that and fix that, then it's all put together. You get a whole different kind of picture.
Wow, yeah, very good, very, very solid, and I hope people take that with them, because it's like you come in and they're currently doing something in their sport. They're currently competing. They're currently whatever. Like most of our day-to-day clients, they usually come in with some sort of injury or any kind of pain. But our clients that are athletes, they usually have a sport and they want to excel in that sport. So technically you're saying that, well, they have a lot of tools already, but like the link in between is what they need to focus on. And while doing that, these boring exercises like rubber bands or stability or balance, they'll get faster, jump higher, turn quicker, and so on. So it's important that we really talk it through, and then to get back to...
It's a process. Like you have to explain that you're only going to do these exercises for a set amount of time, and then you're going to keep moving on forward. So it's not doing boring exercises for the rest of your life. I mean,
no.
I hope we understand that.
This is it. It's the one exercise. You choose one, and then you do that for the rest of your life. I'm glad you lifted that up, because that kind of steers me towards my next question.
Yes.
And my next, I would say, experience that I have is that we have this consultation, and the consultation is quite immense, because we want to make sure that we understand each other. And to go back to goals and expectations, and it's usually like this, that the goals are something that the client has, the athlete has, maybe it's them, their coach, their parent, it doesn't matter. But it's like goals that they want to come in with and say, okay, I want to do this. But then the expectations are all of a sudden pushed towards us.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how good am I? And I think that what we need to understand is that goals and expectations, they're kind of like intervened.
Yeah.
But they're usually, in that case, out of sync. So they go together, but it's not the way it's supposed to be. And we talk usually about like a partnership, that the client and the coach, me and my athlete, we need to be in sync to understand what we want to do with whatever we want to do, because or else it probably won't go well.
Yeah, I mean, you have to trust the process.
100%.
And we both have to be on the same page to be able to do that.
100%. Because I had a client that we worked with, and where, well, I learned it the hard way. For me, I did the greatest program on the earth. Well, I thought at least.
Yeah.
And the client did nothing of it. So no matter what we did or didn't do, the results were missing. So I can blame the client all I want, they can blame me all I want, but our partnership didn't work. And that's important, to be both understanding and humble for what the other person has to bring, and see that, well, where can we work together? Because today I would say I still work the same way, but I make it a lot more clear that we need to do this together. What are your expectations of me, and what kind of expectations can I put on you? So that is something that we need to bring in building anything. So building power and speed is understanding that they have an obligation to do their part. We have an obligation to do our part. Because you can give someone the world's greatest program and they do nothing and we get no results. But if you give someone that, like, a regular program, something that's like just for adaptation, but they go all in, their intention is there, they warm up completely, they're focused in every rep, what happens?
They get the results. Yeah.
Very clear. And then it comes to the next things. What happened if our expectations, their expectations are high up, we meet there, so their intention, their effort is as high as it can be, our program is as good as we can make it, then what happens? And that's kind of where the magic, like, happens.
Definitely. Yeah.
So that's good.
I mean, when we talk about power and strength, it's also like, you're not always doing these boring exercises. When it comes to the work, you also have to be able to put in the work. And we've been talking a lot about tempos. Like, if you want to train speed, you have to do it fast. And we can see, like, in football teams that we work with, that they want to train for speed, but they're maybe not using the correct amount of rest times, or they're resting too short.
Well, could you give us some examples of that?
Well, there's let's say football, or let's say tennis, or some kind of different sport, where you want to get faster. So maybe you're doing sprints. Maybe you're doing 10-meter sprints, 30-minute sprints, 30-meter sprints. But then you're doing it, like, with minimal amount of rest. You're doing a sprint, and then the coach says, run fast back, and then keep doing it. What happens? I mean, the first sprint is usually, like, the best one. And then the second sprint, it keeps getting worse. And then third sprint, and after a while, people are tired. I mean, the quality of the movement is getting worse, and then maybe someone injures himself. I mean, that's very, like, it's a regular thing that we see in practices.
Absolutely.
And so when we talk about speed, we also talk about, like, the intention, the rest has to be there.
All right. So what would you say is a good rest for, like, a 10 or 20 or 30-meter sprint?
Well, let's take the football team, for example. Maybe just, like, slow walk back. So let's say the sprint takes about, what could it take, like 1-2 seconds? Maybe you rest 10 times the amount. You walk.
All right, that much.
It's a lot. It's like you say 1 to 10 rest ratio, work ratio.
It's good to know. You're saying that, like, well, whatever the intention is, we have to mimic
exactly
that. So how's the best way of finding a way to mimic something?
Yeah, I mean, give it your all.
Yeah.
Let's say you're gonna do an exercise like the bench press, and you want to be able to generate a lot of power. You have to, like, really, really focus and give it your all on that set. Like, you can't just do it slowly and just, like, think that, okay, this is gonna give me. I mean, you have to, like, put yourself in a mental state and then just, like, attack it.
Okay, so you actually need to kind of step back and realize that. What is my intention? What are my goals? And how do I train so it simulates those goals?
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
We covered kind of the basics. So it's important to
start where you are.
Start where you are. It's important to understand your intentions with training. No matter what you train with, if it's a coach, if it's a training program, if it's something else, you need to understand what is expected, the expectations, and what goals are, and how they work together. Understand that work and rest is something that needs to regulate a lot. And
having the intention behind the exercise is there.
And when we want power, we need to express power.
Definitely.
And that means you start making noises at the gym and so on. Well, that's good. That's good. So thank you so much again, Martin.
Thank you.
For you guys at home, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week with some new shows for you guys. And until then, take care.